Thanks so much for the presentation. So let's get started. We have some slides to present you a little bit what we've done, which is I think an amazing story, and then we will do some Q&A session. But let's start with a little bit about the story. Why robots? Why digital twins in a food plant? And why Siemens is working with Blendhub? Amazing technology in the food and beverage industry, and we discovered with Henrik that we had a lot of in common, right, Henrik?
I think so.
And we thought, okay, why don't we together just rethink the food and beverage industry and find new ways to produce food, to find new ways to create more sustainable food, and also just to put all these things in practice, okay? And what we'd like to tell you today is a story about upcycling, and a story that starts in the beer industry. And instead of finishing with a beer, we finish with something like this. We finish with some crackers. And it's a story of how can we reuse using technology, byproducts coming from the brewing of beer, and creating a value-added product, okay? And Henrik, I think you can tell us what is happening in the food and beverage industry.
Yeah, maybe you're looking at me because after 40 years, I look a little bit older compared to when I started. The truth is that first and foremost, I think it's important, and I'm really grateful for Siemens to have us today, to understand that food and beverage industry is led by 80% of the world's food production being small, medium enterprises, and thereby not a very easy, let's say, industry to enter into. And it's certainly not an easy industry to make changes. And that's why, of course, that after 20 plus years of entrepreneurship, that actually not only Siemens and Blendhub are joining forces, but actually we together are empowering other people. And actually the slide you see here today is a little bit interesting because it's a slide from the origin of the ingredients and what we like to call in Blendhub from soil to mouth. So when you look at the food industry, everything starts with a plant or an animal that is later on converted into human food products. So in this specific case, it's a case about a product that has been integrated into a recipe, because remember, food industry are only two things. It's all about recipes and ingredients. In this case, the product that is inside this specific recipe is one of the ingredients is a beer spent flour. And the beer spent flour is a subproduct of another recipe that is called beer. Until now, and beer has been around for thousands of years, it's a fermented food product, and there is a subproduct that is the beer spent that when it comes out, it has been either years back, many years back, used as landfill, or it has been used as animal feed, just to grow the animals. In this case, it's actually, and we believe at Blendhub, together with Siemens, that we can create much more value together of subproducts. In the case that you can see here, if we recover these subproducts coming from the beer production being turned into a flour, and this is where Blendhub is putting flour together with other ingredients and then convert the flour and the other ingredients into a ready-to-consume fruit product. The other thing that I just want to mention that you can see on the top, this is what we say, this is upcycled, a food recipe with an upcycled ingredients or more upcycled ingredients, is that actually you will see that there is no brand on this product. And I think the important thing here is that Siemens and Blendhub coming together have actually decided to expand the capabilities of branding new recipes with new ingredients for entrepreneurs, for food companies, and in general to upgrade the value not only of the ingredients by itself, but actually upgrading the society by empowering youth and other entrepreneurship anywhere in the world.
And this is just to solve one of the issues that happens in the food industry. So we'll talk about innovation, we'll talk about new recipes, we'll talk about new products, but what does it take to create a new product? So that's one of the biggest issues in the industry, to create a new product to make sure that it can be industrialized. Typically, it's a process that takes a year or 2 years. So how can we move from a new recipe, from a new product, to a final product easily in the 3 months? So that's why we thought, okay, let's try to use our technology, use all our knowledge, and one of the examples you're going to see here is that we just producing these beers in a kind of a factory in the industrial metaverse. So you're going to see how we use this in the industrial metaverse just to produce some of these factories. And it just follows the story about sustainability that we started a few years ago with Econoque and Estrella Galicia and Manos de la Ribera. And basically, that's a story that you could hear tomorrow here, and where we use this vertical farming and move to this value-added product and a specialized beer, which is really, really tasty. And we thought, okay, what do we do with the bagasse? What do we do with the leftover? Is there an option to do that? And that's what all this story came up. And we thought, okay, let's do a process. Let's start with these leftovers from the beer, the bagasse. And what about if we dry this, if we just grind it, and if we create it as a flour-based product that Blendhub can mix in as a premix? And what about if we create these crackers that you'll see here, and you will be able to taste later on if you want, and we create these crackers in the metaverse. That's what we put all our technology into play. And let's cook. I mean, we all like food, so we all know how to cook. And that's a basic recipe of a cookie. Very simple. We mix all the solid ingredients, we mix all the liquid ingredients, and then we just have to cut it and cook it. So a very, very simple recipe. And of course, when we have a recipe, we have all ingredients. And let's start cooking the ingredients. This is the Blendhub small factory, and Henrik, you're going to tell us a little bit about this portable powder blender factory that you have. Yeah.
Already now?
Yeah, if you want.
So I always like to say that when we started out with a purpose of transparency, and that was back in 1997. The thing is that in 97, talk about transparency and talk about trust was very much related to brands. So you trusted the brand, you trusted the transparency, but in the end, you can always ask yourself if you really understand what is inside the food product. So we started out and moved towards a transparency that was built into an infrastructure. So what you see here is a factory that we had to build after constructing our first static factory in Spain, in Murcia, where the day of the inauguration, I said to myself, how on earth did we build one static factory in one part of the world? Why don't we actually chop it down? So I called in my engineer. We developed this portable factory and said, instead of taking the ingredients from around the world to the factory in Spain, why don't we take the factories and chop it up and put them where the ingredients are? And actually what came out of that was that in 2011, with this factory, the prototype finalized. We deployed it in India because the competitiveness of us as a food industry selling B2B from our Spanish production hub was not good enough, and some of the ingredients came from India. So we actually deployed this in India. And localization suddenly became the key for us because this factory localized in India doing the same high quality food product saved 30%. So we understood that it was much more than a factory. It was actually a possibility. If we could do it once, we could replicate any food recipe with any ingredient anywhere in the world and start cutting costs by localization. So the idea of the factory was not to build just a factory, it was build a system. And after that, and this is where, again, the connectivity to Siemens, inside that factory, there are a lot of Siemens components. So of course, when you have a factory and you are inspired by companies like McDonald's or Coca-Cola or even Apple and Amazon, what you start building a vision into is say, and what if we actually create the world's first network of multi-localized food production hubs? So over the period from 11 to 18, we deployed 7 of these units. We have another 2 ready to deployment that we are negotiating right now. And over the last 19 to 23 to 24, we were building a replication model that when suddenly Siemens, Eduard and myself met here 4 years back, I said, we actually need more Siemens technologies to be built into the factory, because it's not enough just to have the technology in the factory that cannot communicate with the cloud. So this was where this whole relationship was built based on a specific production unit that we explored.
And you can see here one of the first examples. So we wanted to see what happens inside a mixer, what happens inside this factory. So you see a simulation coming from Siemens software that shows all the mixing process of this bagasse premix. So you see all the different molecules, the manufacturing process of mixing all these. But now let's start cooking the cookies. So let's start the manufacturing process. What you see here is a factory that is in the metaverse, that is connected to a real factory with all systems fully functional, where we can test any recipe at any time and make sure that it can be manufactured. So it's a very, very simple factory, but it's completely automatic. You don't see any people, you won't see any pipes here. It all runs with drones, with AGVs. And you see that the first we see here is an AGV, is an automatic guided vehicle, who's gonna run this recipe. And the first thing he does, it just talks to the first station, and they talk each other, and they say, okay, what do you do? I put containers. Do I need a container? Oh yes, just put me a container. And it goes to the next one. And the next one, of course, is stopping by Henrik's Blendhub's PVV to load these 10 kilos of premix. And it goes to the hub and starts talking to the hub and says, okay, what do you have? I have this premix flour. Okay, how much do you need? I need 10 kilos of those. And then it gets loaded with the 10 kilos. And let's continue the recipe. And you see in a recipe you have these base products, but also you have flours, you have salts, you have vitamins that they have to be dosed very, very carefully. And the robot goes into this new area. That's our barman. That puts all the essences, all the flavors, all the vitamins that have to be measured really, really specifically. So what you see here are three systems that they're talking together. We have the AGV, we have the robot, we have the scale, and this robot is making this seaweed, the sea salt, and all these mixes together and adds it to the mix. That's our barman who's preparing these special mixes. And this is a really important thing, especially when you're dosing vitamins or things like that, right, Henrik?
Absolutely, and not only, as you can see on the right side where the factory moves, there is full control on the traceability and the transparency through actually the entire operation. And of course, what you probably also know, and what we mentioned before, is that Blendhub as a group have already done a huge step towards digitized food quality with our Chemometric brain. Chemometric brain, when we deployed our hub in India in the first place, it was all about how do we actually control factories from far away. And at that time in 2011, Siemens was still not on board. So we had to go out and look for technologies like any of you as a company are doing every single day. And we found out that there had been a technology like infrared spectroscopy that had been around for many years, but was highly underutilized many times because that the software was simply not good enough. So what we did is we started creating our own software. So we started communicating with a specific near equipment. We started uploading the data to the cloud, and every single batch going into this factory and every single final blended product coming out of that factory, we digitized that internally simply to make sure that the trusted traceability from an internal perspective was at a top level. And of course, after meeting you, Eduard, that was the vision of actually elevating the trusted traceability and the chemometric brain into something that was much bigger together, right?
Yeah. In the meantime, while Henrik was talking and saying all these interesting things, our AGV has finished the recipe. So it's going up to the last point where we have the oven, and it's just layering out the mix and just cooking it, and we have these cookies that you will test. So you see a small example of how this factory and how the concepts we put together with Blendhub, connected with automation, connected with manufacturing execution systems, help us to test these recipes, these new products very, very quickly. So this product was from idea to market in less than 3 months, and that's something you can taste. And of course, this is a super flexible factory that can run multiple products at the same time. So we think that this is one of the features of the food and beverage industry. And that was just a little bit of glimpse of the things that we're doing together with Blendhub that I think they're very exciting things. So
maybe just a small comment before closing. One of the, I think, the main reasons for Siemens and Blendhub being so aligned is that in 2015, we decided to close our own lab because there are trillions of recipes in Google and there are millions of ingredients available. So I understood that why on earth do all food industries invest in my recipe is better than yours or my ingredients is better than yours. So from 2016 and onwards, we actually started turning our business model from being a product-oriented business operation, B2B, to become a service model, because recipes and ingredients are everywhere, from our household to the restaurants to the industry. And I can tell you it's not about my recipe or your recipe or my ingredient or your recipe, it's about facilitation. And Siemens and Blendhub have one big thing in common, that we actually work, of course, for ourselves as companies, but we also work to actually empower others to succeed. And if you see this cracker, Blendhub is not a cracker or a biscuit or a bakery or a dairy or an alternative protein or a meat producer whatsoever. Blendhub are designing food products that contain powder-based ingredients anywhere in the world. And this is just an example. And what we are thriving or striving towards, both companies today, is empowering what I said in the beginning, that 80% of the world's food and nutrition producers can actually together with us thrive and act as any of the big multinational companies using absolutely, let's say, strategic technology at the highest possible level anywhere in the world. The problem, as many of us understand, is that SMEs in general many of them are actually family owned, and many of them have a lack of understanding for technology. And I can speak for myself, because when we started to scale, you know, who do you select, who do you work with, who do you trust? And of course, the whole leverage of this collaboration with Siemens and Blendhub is that we have felt it on our own body for 27 years, and Siemens are already inside many of the things we do without actually using that for something bigger. So the trust factor and actually believe that this is possible, I think is the first thing we need to overcome. And that is why that Blendhub historically have not been focusing on the big multinationals that most people do. They go and tell about, I would like to sell to this big company or that. We have said we would like to empower entrepreneurship. We would like to empower youth. Of course, it's not a very good business in the beginning, but eventually these companies start growing. And what has happened, and again from own experience and incentivizing others, is that when you are betting on something that is a winner, and I can say that food is going to be local, upgrading local communities to create more value is going to happen. So the sooner that people start working together, instead of thinking about me winning or you winning, I think that we can make the world much more efficient and certainly a better place at the same time.
Yeah, we say at Siemens that we're a technological company, and we see technology as a way to transform things, to transform the everyday, as we say. And that's a really good example of how can we empower small and medium businesses, how can we help them to do things in a different way, and how can we bring them the ability to produce new products, new solutions, and also being more sustainable.
And I certainly do not feel that, that we are supported by regulation in the right manner, because if we look at, and it's not me saying that, that is on social media, everything on social media being less or more truth is actually talking about that, you know, a lot of the incumbents food products are directly unhealthy. We fill them with sugar, we fill them with you know, major ingredients. I use the example, many people are scared about Bitcoin because it had fluctuations last year of plus 100%, but the wheat prices had a fluctuation of 500% and nobody are talking about it. So I don't think we are doing enough from a legislation point of view to facilitate the incorporation of minority ingredients. And that is why, again, that the social aspect of collaboration, the ecosystem, is about how can we actually go around not only legislation, but also the traditional ways of ideating, testing, validating, and launching food products. For example, with Blendhub, we work with influencers. We are starting to work with sports people. Look at Chobani in the US. That is one of the examples I start to use many times that has been extremely successful, taking over an old factory that was left by one of the incumbents. So I think there are many creative ways that we as humans can work in ecosystem and actually accelerate impact if we are willing to take the risk.
Yeah, we think that the use of technology is going to help them just to overcome some of these hurdles that are happening in the market. So you know about compliance, you know what is coming in terms of sustainability, especially if you want to cover step 1, step 2, and step 3. And we think that technology helps them just to uncover, to just jump these hurdles. When we designed this example here, we tried to tick as many boxes as possible. This means, as an example, we looked a lot on the energy spent on the process. We looked a lot on making sure that we're not wasting any water, any ingredients, anything like that. So we tried to solve a lot of issues in just this demonstrator. And our idea was to start on improving innovation, being faster innovating, but also making sure that we help them anywhere in the process, everywhere in the process. Yeah, there's a lot of things you haven't seen in this example. We just did a very quick video, but every time that one of these AGVs goes into a station, there's an exchange between them, and we exchange, of course, the energy that is spent, the amount of time that is being there. So a lot of data that is stored in the process, that it's used also for compliance, is used also to make sure that we improve every time more and more. All these processes are more or less monitored by AI. So we make sure that we improve every time we run a recipe. And all these things, of course, are helping companies to be more and more efficient. And of course, if they're more efficient at the end, it will result in gains afterwards. As an example, being able to access better financial.
I would like to give a real example. We talked about ecosystem. We talk about the use of technology. I think there is missing a very important word, that is generosity, because we all for-profit companies, we all are here to make profit, but we're also here to make profit in a different way. And the example of Chemometric Brain, that is one of the companies that we founded back in 2000, and we started in 2007, and it really started getting mature and accelerating between 10 and 12. Inside Blendhub, we have digitized more than 1 million food products, what we call good food libraries. We could have easily kept that, and this is what most company does with technology. They keep it in-house and they don't share it. 2 years back, we actually decided to open up because we thought that the technology was so powerful it could be used for a lot of other things. And as an example, the day after tomorrow in Murcia, with the CNTC, that is the Technology Center of Murcia, we're having an event with another partner that is a technology center that can use the same technology from our software, from the near-infrared equipment that, by the way, can be any equipment. So we are becoming near equipment agnostic. So it's a little bit like, do you want to have an iOS or do you want an Android? So we see ourselves as the Android of the food industry, being a very important step, because if we cannot share the data and everyone are agglomerating an enormous amount of data. So this event is about using it in fruit and vegetables. We have created fish customers. We have created a lot of niche products in the Spanish ham. And now the most important thing is we are not keeping all the benefit for ourselves. So the technology center, who owns the right to the specters or the technology that are created, are rightly uploaded that to the cloud. That is, of course, not even our cloud. It's somebody else's cloud. And now we give them 20% of the revenue created. So generosity and value sharing has to be an integrated part of the use of technology in the future. Thank you. 1 + 1 is more than 2. Yeah, if somebody wants to test the crackers, they're actually made by a company from Denmark, powered by Blendhub, and taken to market with technology from Siemens. And this is just a single recipe with I don't know how many ingredients, but it's actually very tasty. and it's very, very economically accessible and high protein and nutrition quality. So thank you very much.